actually diving right into the next subject matter. You can actually stay right here, First Vice Prime Minister, because we're diving from one subject matter to another to sort of make up for lost time. And as soon as the stage has been cleared, I'm very delighted to welcome our next set of speakers here on stage. I see some photos are still being taken. And if I could kindly ask the speakers to slowly exit the stage, because there's actually going to be another session right afterwards without a break, which is titled Perspectives for Economic Recovery to Promote a Strong and Sustainable Economy for Ukraine. Thank you so much to the speakers of this session. Gentlemen, if I could kindly ask you, just to not to be misunderstood, we're actually in the process of starting the very next panel. And for that, it is my great pleasure to welcome to the stage. I haven't seen him yet quite, but I'm sure he's here in the audience. The German Vice Minister and Minister for Economic Affairs and Climate Action, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome Robert Habeck. It's great to have you. And the First Vice Prime Minister, please have a seat, Minister. Yes, we're arranging a bit. Also on this panel, great to have him with us, as always, the Secretary General of the OECD. Please welcome Matthias Cormann, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. And last but certainly not least, the Chair of the Business Advisory Council and President and CEO of Siemens Energy AG, Dr. Christian Bruch, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Mr. Cormann. It's great to have you with us. I think so sorry. I think, yes. Please take the far left. And no, that's okay. I'm moving in the middle. It's just so happened that we've had 8 speakers for the last one. We are reducing it a bit. Now, not much time, but great to have you with us, Vice Chancellor, Minister of Economy. Always great to see you, great to have you back. We don't have much time, but I do want to give you a chance. We're talking here about the perspectives for the economic recovery of Ukraine. I want to give you a chance to have your remarks, and I'm happy to pass you the microphone.
Well, I take yours. Well, thank you very much, and dear colleagues from all over Europe and maybe the world, thanks for coming to Berlin. You just said it. I think the President Zelensky is now driving to the parliament, and if someone is giving me a sign, then I have to leave the stage and be there due to protocol.
Yes.
But we will see what's going to happen now. First of all, let me start with a personal remark or an anecdote, if you may say so. In the beginning of the war that Russia's invasion on Ukraine, I was sometimes listening to the BBC podcast Ukrainecast. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Then after a long period, yesterday or the day before yesterday, I listened to it once again, and by coincidence I listened to a young soldier from your country I heard 2 years ago when he was 19 and volunteered to go to the front. And I remember that he was, you can't say enthusiastic, but full of willingness fighting for your country. Now, after 2 years' time, he said, I have never expected that this war would last so long. I've lost my comrades. Death is now something I'm used to. And he was searching for the words because the horror of the war after 2.5, 3 years of war was, you could feel it and hear it in his voice. And I'm saying that because I have 4 sons of my own. They have the same age now. He's now 21, and he has lived and suffered in the time of one's life where freedom and exploring the world and having an easy life and making friends and making love and whatever that is the core and the sense of being young. And now he's an experienced soldier, having killed his enemies, having having seen how loss and death is his normal companion, actually. So, and I listened to this Ukraine cast, and it made me once again clear that this conference, the recovery conference, is not just an ordinary conference. And we are, in a minute, we start talking about energy, and we start talking about business opportunities and the recovery of Ukraine. And you heard the speeches of Olaf Scholz and President Zelensky and Ursula von der Leyen. And I tend to hear the words energy and business and trade and opportunity and funds and investment guarantees and so on, as in so many other conferences. But this is not Davos, and this is not another business conference. This is a conference about a country at war, and country at war means people are dying in the moment we're having this conference here. So with everything we try to solve, and supplying the cities with energy and developing business opportunities for you and giving the Ukrainians hope that their country will thrive again after this period, I think we should not forget, at least for me, this was a reminder that this is something, this is historic, and this is a historical mission. And if we fail to supply Ukraine, we not only betray freedom and let your country alone, we also betray the young soldier. I think Mishka was his name, and that was just a personal remark. So this is for me personally, and I think for everyone in the German government and everyone here in this conference, a very, very, it is dear to our heart, and it must be, and we should not forget it. So having said that, to the item of this panel discussion, last year, we have done, as the German government, something we have never done before. We have opened our investment guarantee programs for Ukraine. Never done before means normally this investment guarantee is working like an insurance. The companies that want to go under the umbrella of investment guarantees, they pay a little fee, and if something's going to happen to the fabrication, to whatever investment they are doing, the German state pays them out. For countries at war, it would be unreasonable to do an investment guarantee program, because the risk that something's going to happen is the daily risk. So a missile hits your fabrication, then it's destroyed and we have to pay. This is not a good business model for the German state. We have done it with tremendous success. Tremendous success. The Chancellor mentioned it. The investments from German companies to Ukraine were number one of all investments worldwide, the sheer number. And the amount of investments was the 5th highest number. So I'm telling you the story because it's so easy, and I recommend it to all the other governments and partners to do something of the same. There's a huge interest from business companies going to Ukraine because there's a skilled workforce, there's a lot of space. I think, Julia, with due respect and a great compliment, you have done a lot about fighting corruption. And the perspective is becoming a full-scale member of the European Union, being part of the single market. So going to Ukraine, investing now, is a business opportunity. Here's a business model. The only thing that has to be solved is, for a state at war, that you need a bridge or some framework, a guarantee framework. And not to talk too long, this is what we have done in 2023, and we see in 2024 the request, the demand for investment is still there. It is ongoing, so the success story is going on, and maybe we can also, with a dark sky of the horizon for the country at war, with so many people are dying, we can, I don't know, open up the sky a little bit, or the horizon a little bit, and make some light shine to Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Thank you indeed. Thank you indeed, Minister Habeck, for your initial statements and making clear this is not just another regular business conference, economic conference. Very clearly, based on your words, this is also weighing heavily on your soul. This has been a burden not just for Ukraine, but its partners as well. And as you pointed out, you have to rush to the parliament to follow President Zelensky's speech. So we will finish in 18 minutes' time, punctually, no, rain or shine. shine, no matter what happens. Yes, of course, you as well, Minister Sviridenko. We've already had the pleasure of listening to you in the previous panel, but I want to give you a chance nonetheless to once again obviously come in, because we're talking about how to promote a strong and sustainable economy for your country. I would like for you to elaborate on the remarks you've made in the previous panel.
Robert just mentioned about a few tools that German government launched.
Take this mic. The one is
Yeah, we're sharing the mic, no worries. This is all about sharing here at the conference.
Let's try this. So Robert just mentioned about few financial instruments that have been launched by the German government last year. And I would say that these united efforts, they yield in very concrete results. During the first year of large-scale invasion, economy dropped 30%. Last year, 5% growth. This year, we expect that we also will have growth at least 3.5, 3.6%. Actually, at the beginning of the year, we even expect that it would be more. But because of the attacks on energy grid, we should reconsider this macroeconomic forecast. But it means that actually investors, despite of the fact of war, they come to the country, they are setting up businesses. FDI last year was $4.2 billion at even more than in relatively peace years, 2016 and 17. And I think it's also a good signal for our partners that Ukraine, it's not only about the nation, it's about businesses itself. And I absolutely agree that this conference, it's not all about just economic issue, it's about numbers or projects in energy, in renewables, green metallurgy, IT, logistics, but it's about European future as well. And we, during this conference today, once again, feeling ourselves like part of the European family, and we really expect that the negotiation would start by the end of this year, and we become even closer. So that's why I just would like to emphasize once again that we, like a government, want to be more self-sufficient, and there are a few steps we want to implement in the short term to be so. We want to be able to defend ourselves, so we want to produce weapons within our country, and we're very grateful for German cooperation in this area. We want to get frozen Russian assets because we truly believe that Russia should pay. And we expect for decision during the G7 meeting. Also, we expect that we will be able to expand logistics, and we succeed a lot. During the last year, 13 million tons of goods, it's export volume of April. It's almost pre-war volume. Also, we are focusing on incentivize and on creating conditions for Ukrainians to return back, because, as I said, the previous panel is the most valuable resources of our country, and of course attract investment and to set up different financial tools together with partners to incentivize investors to come to the country despite the fact of war. And we have identified several sectors in Ukraine facility plan. It's energy sector, agri-processing, IT, logistics. So we are incentivize our investors, local and foreign, to come to the country by setting up different types of tools, like war risk insurance, like in industrial parks, like refunding for the connectivity. So we're also providing our reforms. As I mentioned, 200 indicators right now are on the list. So we are like a government also make our homework, and we're implementing different types of structural reforms and build stronger institutions. So that's why I think it's a right time to invest to our country, and in economic sense, in political sense, and for those ones that are looking to the future, I think it's the right time to discuss it within this conference.
Thank you so much, Minister. This is the right time to invest in Ukraine politically, but also economically, which brings me, of course, to the Secretary General of the OECD. Always great to see you, Matthias Cormann. It's great to have you with us. You just listened to both the German minister as well as the Ukrainian minister, of course, talk about how to move the Ukrainian recovery process forward. And the OECD's role here is not insignificant. I was wondering, what you would see as the main reform necessities and challenges moving forward from the OECD's perspective.
Well, thank you very much, Ali, Vice Chancellor, Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Bruch. Great to be here. I'll try and be really succinct. The first point I would like to make is that in incredibly difficult circumstances, Ukraine's economy has actually proven to be remarkably resilient. After the 29% contraction of its economy in 2022, we saw growth of above 5%. Last year, we see continuing growth of 2.5% this year, and we expect that to strengthen to 4.5% next year. That should give all of us a lot of confidence about what would be possible in better circumstances into the future. In particular, given the very strong commitment by the government in Ukraine and by the Ukrainian people to pursue a reform agenda, an ambitious reform agenda to align Ukraine's legislation, policies and practices with international best standards. And it's in that space, of course, that the OECD is very active together with the government of Ukraine. We've established a 4-year OECD Ukraine country program, which systematically across the broad public policy spectrum will support an ambitious structural reform agenda. And of course, we're focusing on helping to optimize the economic recovery opportunities moving forward. Of course, Ukraine has already made pretty significant progress on improving public sector effectiveness, the business environment, and the rule of law, and it will be important to continue with that reform agenda. And we're providing support to Ukraine, in particular, with a whole series of policy reviews on public governance, competition, environment and waste management, infrastructure, education, statistical and tax policy, and other areas. And across all of these areas, we assess Ukraine's current legislation, policies and practices, and we make recommendations on how Ukraine can best align with OECD standards and best practices. And we've recently also started work on the justice review, which will help Ukraine to enhance the independence and transparency and integrity and efficiency of the judiciary, again based on OECD standards and best practices, and we have initiated a major economic survey of Ukraine. Just going through this very quickly, one of the big challenges that Ukraine has, despite its continuing economic resilience, is the very significant fiscal deficit, 20% as a share of GDP last year, 19% as a share of GDP this year still expected, and of course relying very significantly on international financing support. And so we are providing support focused on boosting domestic resource mobilization as well as enhancing public sector efficiency. We're also, of course, focusing on enhancing the business and investment environment with a view to support reconstruction and recovery over the medium and long term, with a particular focus on the fight against corruption, to foster a level playing field for business and indeed to safeguard public integrity. Ukraine has become a participant of our working group on bribery last year as part of the process of formally joining the OECD Anti-Bribery Convention. I mean, that involves a whole range of lifting of policies and practices to align with international best practice, and that work will continue. And we've also, as was previously mentioned, supported Ukraine's reforms when it comes to the governance of state-owned enterprises. I know that time is running, but let me just say, obviously, number one priority is bringing back a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. But beyond that, I think that the work that we're all doing together makes me optimistic about the economic prospects of Ukraine moving forward.
Thank you so much, Matthias Cormann, for not just being here, but also laying out the OECD's efforts in promoting Ukraine's economy moving forward. Christian Bruch, it's great to have you with us. The time is ticking mercilessly. You can see it, I can see it. Therefore, very, very briefly, I know you're obviously not just the CEO and president of Siemens Energy, but you're also the chairperson of the newly launched Business Advisory Council. And I would like to give you a couple of minutes to talk about the work and goals of the Business Advisory Council. Christian Bruch.
Thank you very much. I will try to do this very briefly, and maybe let me say what it actually is, the Business Advisory Council. It comprises of business representatives of the different donor countries and also of Ukrainian business people. By definition, this is very diverse in terms of the segments which are presented. I represent energy, we have retail, we have finance, we have all different type of industries. And these are business people who are before the war, now during the war, active in the country already anyway, and who have employees in the country, who have business relationship with Ukrainian companies, and obviously are interested to support and build up the Ukrainian economy. The main task of this Business Advisory Council will be to advise the donor countries, so the MCECP, with the support and recovery actions to build up business. However, we are all aware there are certain absolutely urgent short-term needs, like rebuilding the energy infrastructure. Obviously, on the defense side, there will be urgent needs. And there are certain midterm potentials. And we are trying, obviously, to combine these different things because at the end, the business, apart from any donations, has to have a business case to make private capital flow into the country and to make it work. So there are boundary conditions which have to be clarified. It has to be clarified what are the security risks, how do we judge on it, how do we make capital flow, how do we get people, which is the biggest constraint in the country at the moment, the human resource. And we are trying to flag up on very specific examples what could be done and can be done from a short-term perspective and a mid-term perspective, and to give advice as good as possible really to the different countries and hopefully getting tangible results out of it.
Thank you so much indeed for laying out the mission and goals of the newly launched Business Advisory Council. It goes without saying that not just for you, but everyone else here on this panel, I would have loved to dive into an engaging conversation, follow up, but we fully understand, of course, President Zelensky is about to give a speech in the German parliament, and it is logical and necessary that both the Vice Chancellor Obertabik, but also you, of course, Minister Sviridенko, should and have to be present there. Suffice to say, summing up, everyone's on board, everyone's efforts are very much in line and in full force when it comes to promoting a strong and sustainable economy for Ukraine. Vice Chancellor, Minister Sviridенko, Christian Bruch, Matthias Cormann, thank you so much for your input. This is your applause. Much appreciated.